Hello there, this is Out Motorsports. My name is Jake and this is the 2021 Ram 1500 TRX. This is Ram's latest version of their 1500 series pickup truck, and it is their answer to Ford's F-150 Raptor. And in true Ram style, FCA, now Stellantis style, they couldn't do this with a small engine. So you can't quite call it a Hellcat because that branding is really reserved for the Dodge family lineup. However, this is more or less a Hellcat truck. This Ram 1500 TRX has the brand's 6.2-liter supercharged V8 engine, making 702 horsepower and 650 pound-feet of torque. So obviously, you can't really probe the limits of a truck like that and really get the best experience in the Washington, D.C. suburbs. So clearly, we're not there. We're at a friend's horse farm, and we're a few hours outside of D.C., and we're gonna see how this Ram TRX is to both tow with and, of course, play around with off-road a little bit. Now, before we get into all that, please take a second, subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on that notification bell so you don't miss anything coming up down the pike. We've got a lot of fun stuff with new cars, new trucks, old trucks, you name it, we're doing it. We'd love to have you stick around. And before we get into talking about how this thing tows and, of course, how it off-roads, let's talk a little bit more about what the TRX is. Like I said, this comes with a 702 horsepower, 650 pound-feet of torque, supercharged 6.2 under the hood, and that power all flows through an 8-speed automatic, which is a beefed-up version of the 8-speed you get in the other 1500s. Every Ram 1500 TRX has full-time four-wheel drive. It's kind of a all-wheel drive, four-wheel drive hybrid setup, so you can just leave it in automatic mode, and then you can lock it into 4-high and 4-low. There is one other special button near that four-wheel drive selector, and that is, of course, launch control. We'll get into that in a little bit. And as far as the numbers, the mechanics of all this, besides the power and the drivetrain, Ram says this can tow up to 8,100 pounds, which is a pretty good number. And they also claim that it's got a little bit more than 1,300 pounds of payload, which is, again, pretty good for an off-road focused truck. Now, as with any truck you purchase, you want to look at the door jamb sticker to see how much payload there really is. We'll look at that in just a minute, but they claim numbers for towing and hauling that are a little bit higher than the Raptor, of course, because this is always a numbers game. As far as what makes this thing good to off-road, you've got special Bilstein shocks front and rear that offer over 13 inches of travel, and that travel is afforded by remote reservoirs that give the shock pistons a little bit more room inside, and they help with heat management if you're wheeling this thing pretty hard out west somewhere. Other notable features for the sake of off-roading are multiple drive modes, and it's got a little under a foot of ground clearance, which is pretty good for a truck like this. It is not height adjustable. This ride height is what you're gonna get. You can also choose 18-inch beadlock wheels if you're gonna be off-roading this TRX pretty seriously. This truck does not have them. It's got the standard wheels on it. Now you'll notice I also have the second spare tire in the bed of the truck. That is an extra cost option, mostly for the sake of looking cool and taking up bed space, but it is there. If you don't get it, you've got a spare under the truck bed, and in this case, you've actually got 2 spare tires. Now when it comes to stopping the Ram TRX with all this horsepower, 702 horsepower, you have to think about the stopping power, and Ram has done that with the front brakes. These front brake rotors are more than 15 inches in diameter. It's pretty big. And that does matter because if you're gonna get in this and use launch control, which of course we all will, it's the first thing I did, you have to think about how you're gonna stop once you get it to 60 or a little bit faster. And going from 0 to 60, Ram claims you can do in 4.5 seconds. Car and Driver tested this truck on their test loop, and they got the 0 to 60 time down to 3.7 seconds. And that is just about as quick as a 3-liter Toyota Supra, which, if you're keeping track at home, is nuts. This truck weighs quite a bit more than a new Supra. It comes in 700 pounds heavier than an F-150 Raptor at nearly 6,400 pounds. So really impressive that Ram has made it go, steer, and stop as well as they have. And with all that, let's get behind the wheel and see how it tows. Like I said, there's an 8,100 pound tow rating and about 1,300 pounds of payload. All right, so first up, towing with the 2021 Ram 1500 TRX. You'll notice we've got a pretty special guest with us on the trailer today. This is a 1971 Dodge Challenger that is now painted plum crazy purple, which, if you've been paying attention, is the same color as my race car. This 71 Challenger first belonged to my friend Jeff's dad. Jeff is the one who owns the horse farm that we're on here today, and the Challenger was passed down from Dad to Jeff, and it was not originally this purple color. It was repainted once Jeff took it over and cleaned it up a little bit. So we've got the Challenger on a 22-foot, give or take, aluminum trailer here, and we're gonna go ahead and see how this thing tows. Fully loaded up, we're probably at 5,500 pounds, maybe 6K, give or take. Jeff thinks the trailer's about 2,200 pounds, and then the Challenger is, 3,000 or so once you've got it all loaded up. Now the TRX does have a tow mode, so I do have it in tow mode, and as with other newer Rams, this 1500 does have blind spot monitoring with the trailer hooked up, and it will do it automatically, which is different from the competitor Ford's blind spot trailer setup. The Ford, you have to tell it how long your trailer is, and the Ram can figure that out on its own. Now, we're not dealing with the aerodynamic effects of an enclosed because we just had this opportunity with the open, but regardless, I think this is a pretty good representation of what a lot of people will be towing with a truck like this. You can really hear that supercharger whine. It's kind of fun having the trailer on the back of this. You've really got a lot more load on the whole truck and the drivetrain in particular, so you really get to rev it a little more, and it has to work a little harder, so you do get that that V8 rumble plus the supercharger whine when you lay into the throttle even to 3,500 RPM or so. Now, I did mention payload as well. Ram does claim that the TRX bests the Raptor by, I think, 100 pounds. It's rated for up to 1,300 pounds of payload. But as with payload on any vehicle, you really need to look at the door sticker in the driver's front door jamb to see what the payload of the specific vehicle is that you are driving or buying. And in the case of this particular TRX, this one has the spare tire in the bed, and it has the TRX Level 2 equipment package. The payload for this particular truck is just a little over 1,000 pounds. So you really would have to be careful if you've got up to that maximum weight of 8,000, 8,100 pounds on the hitch of it. If you've got 10% tongue weight, you really don't have a lot of room in here for you or things. So you gotta be careful. I suspect a TRX without the tire in the back, that mount and the wheel and the tire has got to be pretty heavy. That would probably give you a little more payload pretty easily if you just took the tire out of your options list. You can really hear that supercharger whine when you lay into it. It's nice. And obviously this truck has no issues with getting up to speed for power's sake, and handling with something of this size is really not a concern. Now, I do need to talk about the brakes on this car. They are bigger than the wheels that came on my first car, which was a 95 Miata that had 14-inch wheels. This Ram has 15-inch plus rotors on the front. And, for how big they are, I thought they would provide a little bit better stopping feel with the truck unloaded. With it unloaded, I really think it's got kind of a soft pedal. It doesn't provide a lot of confidence. With the trailer hooked up, they do feel a little bit better, although I wish there was just a little bit more initial bite. They're not bad once you lay into them, but they do feel kind of soft. It's certainly not the most confidence-inspiring braking for something that makes 700 horsepower. I will leave it at that. If I personally owned a truck like this, I would probably put some better pads on it almost immediately to try and help that initial bite feel.
I might think we're top gear.
This is the most redneck version of Top Gear. It's like amateur hour Top Gear, but I'm loving it. So overall, as far as how this is towing, I think it's totally fine. I would be very comfortable telling someone to put an open trailer on the back of this, but you do really have to watch that payload if you've got a highly optioned TRX. Like I said, I really think having the second spare tire in the bed is your biggest hindrance when it comes to payload, because with the mount and the wheel and the tire, that all adds up really quickly, and if you need the tongue weight, you probably don't want to spec this truck with a tire like that. Now, as far as putting an enclosed trailer behind this, obviously it's got the wheelbase for it. I think stability-wise, if you keep it on the smaller end, a 20-foot trailer would be plenty fine. I think a 24-foot enclosed would be right at that limit of you can do it, but no bigger. And I would not do anything bigger than a 24 with a truck like this. It's a little too soft, it's a little too everything, and if you're gonna be doing a 28-foot, if nothing else, you want just a regular 1500 with the maximum tow package, but you'd probably be better served by a 3/4 ton or larger at that point as well. Now, we do have the dreaded 18-wheeler here, and obviously as you pull out to pass, just hearing that supercharger whine, it's so much louder when you've got the trailer hooked up and you've got some actual load on the truck. I just enjoy the noises that it makes. And this is gonna sound a little weird because I really like the TRX. I think it's really cool, but this is a little different from what I would prefer to have this motor in, whether I'm towing or driving it unloaded. I think I would rather have it in a street truck. I'd rather have it be kind of like the old SRT-10 Rams. Those were the Viper trucks, and those were really quite neat. They were plenty quick. They were, you know, a 500 horsepower V10, and I think those were more in the spirit of what I personally appreciate. But this is a really cool truck. And as far as towing with it, you do have the built-in brake controller. Ram does offer some sort of trailer backup assistance knob, which I don't like it on the Fords. I don't think I would like it on the Ram, but I'm willing to try it. I have not tried it yet. But this truck does not have that. It just has the trailer brake controller, which is really all you need. Between the brake controller, you've got your standard 360-degree cameras, which help you get the whole thing hooked up. Ram has still not figured out how to use the entirety of the 12-inch touchscreen to show your backup camera. And when you're hooking up to a trailer, I would love to have a zoomed-in view of the ball on the 12-inch screen. Like, why is it only taking up half the screen? I think they ought to change that at this point. But otherwise, stability is excellent. I was a little concerned with these, bigger, knobbier, softer off-road tires versus a street truck with just regular highway tires or, light truck tires. And it's fine. I think, like I said, I think if I were pulling an enclosed trailer, I would really prefer a non-TRX. I think I would end up with a regular Ram 1500. This will do it, but I have a feeling it would end up feeling a little soft and a little just not exactly what it's super happy about doing.
And now it's time to hoon.
All right, and after a day of driving around, towing a trailer, and enjoying this wonderful farm and getting off-road a little bit, that's it for this 2021 Ram 1500 TRX. Thank you so much for coming along. As always, please remember to subscribe to the channel, give us a follow on Facebook and Instagram, and if you're looking to connect with like-minded LGBT automotive and motorsports enthusiasts, head over to outmotorsports.com. We've got a whole membership program over there, and we would love to have you join us. Until next time, please stay safe, be well, and we'll see you again soon.